Chapter 43. Chess Dao Formation. Gao Xianzi and Chen Chongchen rushed up to the sky on the cloud beasts, but the two of them did not realize that at this moment, the four directions of the Wurilus Valley already had a lot of anomalies. It was just that the anomalies were not as remarkable as they appeared on the outside. A nameless aroma permeated out, dispersing in all directions of Carefree Valley. The aroma was so faint and peculiar that even Gao Xianzi and Chen Chongchen could not detect it. Underneath a large tree, a team of ants were in the middle of walking in formation with food in their mouths, when suddenly an aroma surged in. Buzz! All of the ants suddenly lurched in their stature, twisting their heads. They dropped the food in their mouths. The ants turned their heads and slowly crawled along where the scent came from. The ants were small, but there were many of them. The scent was faint, but it had a fatal lure to the ants in general. The scent spread in all directions, and more ants were attracted to the farther and farther places. The ants dropped everything and kept crawling towards the cave where Guhai was. The ants were too small, so they crawled slowly, hungry, looking for something to eat on the way, tired, resting. And when they recovered their strength, they continued to crawl towards the cave where Guhai was. The subtle ants didn't even make it into the eyes of Gao Xianzi and Chen Chongchen, who would have thought that it would be ants. It was only 2 days after Gao Xianzi and Chen Chongchen left that the first batch of ants slowly gathered in the Carefree Valley, but even so, they were still very inconspicuous. The ants that came first did not rush towards the ancient sea cave, but rather tore each other apart in a burst of general killing. It was only when the ants in Carefree Valley became more and more numerous that they slowly approached the cave. At the cave, it was hidden by Gao Xianzi and Chen Chongchen, only leaving some small holes for ventilation, but for the ants, it was the road to prosperity. Besides, the ants themselves could also make holes. Inside the hole, Xiaoru was arranged to stay behind to take care of Guhai. For this request, Xiaoru naturally agreed without hesitation, and was extremely happy in general. Looking at Guhai sitting there cross-legged, Xiaoru then slowly swam around Guhai, circling around Guhai, coiled around Guhai, her head gently leaning on Guhai's leg, smelling the fragrance emanating from Guhai's brow, incomparably intoxicated in general. Guhai's mind completely sank into the center of his eyebrows. The 100,000 stalemate games, at this moment, were constantly pairing up and merging, for small stalemate games turning into one big stalemate game. The black pieces were still cold and colored, standing tall and unmoving. Guhai's mind phantom was staring at the white crystal underneath the black pieces. On the white crystal, each of the 28 warps, the 28 warps of the chessboard, were beating faster and faster. Guhai's mind was being pulled in general. Gradually Guhai seemed to see something. Using chess to control a formation, Guhai's mind illusion's eyes lit up. This game of chess, is it demonstrating to me how to land a formation with pieces? The way of formations lies in complexity, divided into yin and yang, checking and balancing each other. White pieces are yang, main life, black is yin, master of death. The way of chess is the way of formation, using chess pieces as the 0 points to build a chess formation. The chess master's chess formation. How strong is the chess power? How strong is the formation? Guhai's mind was surprised. Perhaps there was more to formations than that, but the chessboard in front of him was demonstrating to Guhai a special method of laying formations, using chess to lay formations. More than just yin and yang grand formations, life and death grand formations. Chess power is formation power. The chessboard in front of him was demonstrating to Guhai all the details of the chess power, formation in general. This was teaching Guhai how to turn chess power into battle power, which was more appealing to Guhai than any gongfu. Guhai had powerful chess power, but chess power could only be used for self-indulgence, for intelligent arithmetic. or for use in specific environments, whereas the demonstration of the chessboard in front of him was teaching Guhai how to turn his chess power into a feat with destructive power. The stronger the chess power, the greater this destructive power. This was a way to turn Guhai's theory into practice. So, there was such a wonderful use for chess power. This game of chess, is it demonstrating a balance? The balance of the chess power grand formation, demonstrating various abrupt changes. The chess viewing elder was worthy of being the number one in the world in the Tao of chess in the past. So this is also a kind of heavenly Tao. A determination flashed in Guhai's eyes. At this moment, Guhai became more and more focused, completely immersed in this game of chess, as if he didn't want to let go of the slightest mistake or omission. Perhaps only someone like Guhai, who had superb chess skills, was able to see so deeply. If another person looked at it, it must be just an ordinary chessboard. Chessboard pieces jumped, emitting a trace of energy aroma. Aroma gushed out. Xiaoru smelled the aroma, looking at Guhai in a daze. It was unknown how long had passed. Xiaoru steeply felt a raw pain at her tail, as if her mouth had been broken, and a trace of blood spilled out. Xiaoru suddenly woke up and turned her head to look. Xiaoru let out a scream, but saw the tail's steep blood flow and blood mouth. But there are thousands of ants staked to swallow their own blood. This is not the most frightening. The most frightening that at this moment, in the cave, has crawled with ants, covered with ants. How could this happen? How could this happen? Xiaoru exclaimed. Boom. Xiaoru's body curled up and flung a tail, and immediately, a large number of ants exploded out. However, the cave was already crawling with ants. Where the cave entrance was, it was even denser, as if a small mountain had been piled up to block the entrance. So many ants. Why are there so many ants? Xiaoru exclaimed. Turning her head, Xiaoru looked towards Guhai. Yun-gong, wake up. It's bad. Yun-gong. Xiaoru was about to cry anxiously. But, at this moment, Guhai was already completely immersed in that chess game, and more of his mind was being pulled away. The chess Tao formation seemed simple, but contained so many variables. Even with Guhai's amazing brain power, at this moment, he had to be fully concentrated. Once he was fully concentrated, it was as if Guhai could not hear everything in the outside world. Yun-gong, wake up, Xiaoru anxiously called out. However, Guhai couldn't wake up at all for a while. Countless ants came towards Guhai. Oh no, it's the scent. It must be that scent. Xiaoru shrieked in alarm. Clatter. The ants kept surging towards Guhai. Don't touch my benefactor. Don't touch my benefactor. Go to hell, Xiaoru shrieked. Boom, boom, boom. The snake's tail twisted quickly, flinging the ants away, but the ants were too small. It was impossible to remove all of them with one tail. There were always some that burrowed through the cracks and continued to surge towards the ancient. See, Xiaoru was anxious and kept blasting the ants. No, no, the ants are getting more and more. We must take Yun-gong away. Here, sooner or later, he will be eaten by the ants, Xiaoru shrieked. The ants were tiny and not very lethal, but there were too many ants too many. That was another matter. Accumulation of less becomes more. Accumulation of liquid becomes a sea. These ants were just like that. Xiaoru's body had already been bitten out of two small openings. Looking at the hole. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Boom. Xiaoru rushed towards the entrance of the cave with a roar, knocking large swathes of ants away, to knock the cave away, and then leave with Guhai. Zzzz. Countless ants blocked the passageway. Although Xiaoru had spirituality, but she didn't have the corresponding cultivation. After all, Xiaoru was only 8 years old. Where did she have any magic power? She could only rely on brute force to charge. Boom. With a loud bang, Xiaoru crashed through the hole, and the trees, earth and rocks that were originally covering the hole were suddenly all knocked away. However, Xiaoru, who had crashed through the hole, was suddenly choked and fixed at the hole, stunned by the scene outside the hole. Hiss! Xiaoru sucked in a mouthful of cold air. The carefree valley outside was black, as if it was a black ocean. And the composition of this black ocean was countless ants. Rolling and endless ants came, if they were a big wave of the ocean. Ah! Xiaoru cried out in shock. The ants in the cave had already exhausted Xiaoru, but the black ocean of the carefree valley outside the cave seemed to have destroyed Xiaoru's last shred of expectation. It was as if the whole world was filled with ants. How can there be so many? How can there be so many? Yuan Gong, Yuan Gong. Xiaoru was frightened and cried. However, when she turned her head to look, she saw that a large number of ants had already crawled to where Guhai was. No, don't hurt Yuan Gong, you bunch of ants. Get away, get away. Xiaoru instantly rushed up, constantly slapping one ant after another with her tail, helping Guhai dust off the army of ants on his body. Wow, the ants didn't know how to get tired. And in the outside world, more and more ants came. Eunuch, wake up. Ooh, wake up. Xiaoru cried in shock. The tail kept flinging, shaking off the ants beside Guhai. The hard snake skin once again showed a large number of traumas. Some of the ants, although small, but the bites were extremely powerful time and time again, causing pain to Xiaoru. Yuan Gong. Xiaoru continuously cried amongst herself. But Guhai couldn't hear it at all. In the blink of an eye, as if seawater was pouring into the cave, inside the cave, there was already a layer of ants floating, and there were countless ant corpses. It was as if this group of ants wanted to eat Guhai and eat the source of the aroma. The ants were more concerned about the aroma, biting Xiaoru, just because Xiaoru blocked them. Xiaoru, if she rushed out, still able to escape this sea of ants, but Xiaoru didn't. Xiaoru kept flinging her tail, flinging herself out of strength in general. What to do? What to do? Xiaoru quickly wrapped around Guhai, dragging him towards the outside of the cave. Get away! Get away! Xiaoru screamed in terror. As they passed along the way, billions of ants stung and crawled on Xiaoru's body, constantly biting Xiaoru. It was as if they wanted Xiaoru to put down Guhai for them to eat. Xiaoru cried and fled. The ants on her body kept attaching, tearing and biting Xiaoru's tail, dripping with blood. Xiaoru wrapped around Guhai and rushed out of the cave. But Guhai was the source of the aroma. Wherever Guhai went, the army of ants went. Boom, boom, boom. Xiaoru's tail desperately fell and rushed out of the valley. But the endless ants were desperately pouncing and tearing. Xiaoru gritted her teeth and cried while waving her tail. Her body had already been bitten to the skin and blood. The drilling pain made Xiaoru almost faint, but Xiaoru kept insisting on holding on. I can't sleep. If I sleep, Yuan Gong is going to be eaten by ants. Ooh, I can't sleep. I must protect Yuan Gong. A wave of conviction supported Xiaoru. But there were too many ants outside. After Xiaoru escaped, she was already lost in the sea of ants. She could no longer tell north, south, east, west and north. And the ants wouldn't diminish at all. There were more and more and more. The blood flowed more and more. Xiaoru didn't know how long she had been holding on. Her whole body had long been a bloody mess. Weakly, she was about to faint several times. I can't sleep. I can't sleep. Xiaoru trembled and flicked her bloodied tail. At this same time, in the center of Guhai's brow, above that white crystal, snap! As the last white disc landed on top of the chessboard, instantly, the entire chessboard exploded apart, completely dispersing, turning into the last wave of energy dissipating away, as well as that last wisp of fragrance exploding away. Buzz! Guhai's mind shook, finally coming to his senses. What a powerful chess Dao formation, Guhai said in shock. It was finally over. And that scene just now made Guhai still reminisce about it in general. A great joy surged into his heart. Guhai understood that he had received a great inheritance, or rather learnt a great method of applying the chess Dao. With this inheritance, It would surely allow his strength to rise a few levels higher. Gu Hai was immersed in excitement. Suddenly, a voice was vaguely heard. "I can't sleep, I can't sleep." Xiaoru's extremely weak voice entered Gu Hai's ears. Gu Hai's main body abruptly opened his eyes.